Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calls on Congress to pass legislation for stablecoins as well as digital assets that are not securities. Prometheum, which was a first of its kind exchange to get regulatory approval to sell and exchange digital asset securities, has now just announced that they're going to be listing Ethereum as their first asset. And the last thing that we're going to be going over is we have an update in the Ripple versus the SEC case, with Judge Netburn officially making a ruling if Ripple's going to have to compel information for 2022 to 2023 for financial records. So make sure you guys tune in all the way to the end of this video to find out all the details. Hey guys, it's Ryan with Big Dog Investing. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. If you guys could do a couple of things for me, if you guys can go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you guys have not done so already. Click the bell notification down below so YouTube can send you guys notifications whenever I release videos. Watch my videos all the way to the end. If you guys could share my videos and share my channel with anyone. I'm trying to grow my channel as much as I can. I definitely need your guys' help in doing so. Getting started, today's be Friday, February 9th. The total market cap right now for all cryptocurrency is $1.78 trillion. This is a 0.92% increase on the day today. Fear and greed index right now, we are at 66. So far, we've done actually really well. We've bounced back from our 1.75 trillion where we were at the beginning of the month. We dropped back down to a 1.5 roughly about last week, and now we're back at a 1.78. So we're a little bit higher than what we were. Bitcoin right now is currently trading at $47,183, Ethereum $2,492, and XRP right now at 52.49 cents. Getting into our crypto bubbles for our biggest gainers and losers on the day today. EHEX is our biggest gainer right now, up 22.7. We have IMX right now up 16%, and then we have Bonk right now up 14%. Biggest losers on the day today, PYTH down 6.4. BTT is going to be down 5.6. And then we got BYM or DYM down 2.6. Getting into our news though, on my channel we talk about anything that impacts financial markets. So we're going to talk about stuff that's political right now just because we're coming up to an election year, anything in the stock market, and then mainly we focus on cryptocurrency. Right now, Nikki Haley loses the Nevada primary to none of these candidates. So Donald Trump was not actually on the Nevada ballot for the primary. He was going to be on the ballot for the caucus, but this is all depending on what's going to happen with the Supreme Court ruling on if he's going to be allowed in the ballots or not. But people had to write in their own candidates' names right here, and he won 60.4% of the votes. That's what the speculation is. And Nikki Haley right now is at 33.2%. So Nikki Haley lost, and there's only speculation that this is going to be Trump. It hasn't officially been released, but we all know exactly who that person is. NYC launches a $53 million program to hand out prepaid credit cards to migrant families. And if you were up to a family of 4, you could receive roughly about $1,000 per month in this prepaid program. We've seen a lot of controversy and a lot of social media backlash on this. We've seen even like Stephen A. Smith from ESPN commenting on this, saying there's homeless people in the streets, veterans are getting kicked out of hotels, veterans are getting kicked out of shelters, and now they're being homeless while migrant families now are going to receive money from taxpayers. So the American people are suffering and migrants right here are going to be thriving in the United States. So it's interesting to see other people's takes on this and other people from outside of news organizations, mainly on sports, coming out and talking about this. Barry Stinlynch has said that the office market, so this is going to be your retail real estate, has a existential crisis right now. It is a $3 trillion asset class that's probably worth $1.8 trillion now. And if you guys listen to this, he talks about how everywhere else in the world, everyone goes back to work since the COVID pandemic. And the United States, for some reason, is kind of lacking in that. The job growth looks like it's okay, but people just don't want to go back to work. They want to stay at home and work from home. And he's talking about how the asset class is going to be detrimental, and they're going to be selling some of this stuff for 25 cents on the dollar. And yet Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen comment on this and says, I don't want to comment on the situation of individual banks because there was a concern about some of the banks right here in the United States failing in 2024 after 3 major banks failed in 2023. But says that commercial real estate is an area that we've long been aware could create financial stability risks and losses in the banking system. And this is something that requires careful supervisory attention. And then Genevieve kind of says when they admit it's a problem, it's in the past, like it's past that. So right now we're having a huge issue right now with our banks and possibly being over leveraged on loans, not being able to get money from the loans, having to lend out all of that money. Then they're going to be stuck with all of this property because people defaulted on their loans. They're not going to be able to, sell this property for what they bought it for. So banks are going to be at a huge loss. And are the US federal taxpayer dollars going to go back to paying off some of these banks who are going to fail due to this? Because a lot of people are going to lose a bunch of money if these banks fail. I know the FDIC insures up to $250,000, but we saw that go away with the three major banks that failed. The Fed came in and kind of said, you know what, we're going to cover all of it. So we'll see what happens with this, but be on the lookout for the commercial real estate market. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen also came out in front of Congress and urges them to pass legislation to provide clarity in crypto markets during the financial hearing, and says Congress should pass legislation to provide a regulation of stablecoins and of the spot market for crypto assets that are not securities, which is really interesting because she's saying that the crypto assets are not securities. Now, she's probably not meaning every crypto asset, but this is contrary to what Gary Gensler said, where he says that every digital asset falls under what the SEC should be doing. And Stuart Alderati comes out and says that in the Coinbase and the SEC told the judge that the crypto is a rounding error, no legislative gaps exist, and thus crypto can be swept into the authority yesterday. But Secretary Janet Yellen told Congress that crypto legislation needs to be filled with regulatory gaps, and both statements cannot be true. So you have the Treasury Secretary disagreeing with what the Securities Exchange Commissioner, Gary Gensler, has to say. So it's really interesting to have that conflict. We'll see if Congress officially steps in. There's a lot of speculation that they're not going to do anything in 2024 due to it being an election year, and we won't see any legislation coming out until 2025. Breaking: FTX to refund Bitcoin customers at prices below 18,000. So if they're going to fund people right now to 18,000, even though Bitcoin was currently trading right now at 47,000, this is a huge gap. Now, did they sell these coins at $18,000 or less, or are they going to be now selling these tokens? We don't really know. There's not really a lot of transparency with the whole FTX refund process and being able to pay back these, but we did kind of figure out that the FTT exchange is not going to be coming out. Even after they collected a bunch of money from investors, it looks like they won't have enough money to refund their exchange. Joe Rogan has officially signed a $250 million Spotify deal that allows him to post his podcast on X, which is really great in my opinion. We've seen a lot of people move away from your traditional markets and coming on to the X platform. And it's really interesting because X has also received a bunch of money transfer license for payment services in 18 different states. Here are the ones that are listed below. Elon Musk is talking about how he wants to make X the financial service platform of the world, wants to make this bigger than Visa, MasterCard, PayPal. Obviously, it's not going to be as big as the federal government, but wants to do this as a money transfer service. And we'll see what happens with this. But in my opinion, X is going to be worth a lot of money. And I think Elon Musk did a really good job when he purchased Twitter, changed the name to X, and is kind of adapting to it. And if he ever decides to sell the company later on, it's going to be worth a lot. Now, a bunch of people in cryptocurrency have been talking about Solana because it had a huge price increase from roughly about $12 earlier in 2023 to now being over $100 in 2024. It had a big jump, but the network has stopped processing transactions due to an outage. Now, the outage only lasted about 5 hours, but Solana's had a lot of controversy with their network. There's not a lot of people even using the network right now, in my opinion. We saw a huge boom in 2020 and 2021 due to the NFTs, and we saw a lot of outages. So could we see this ramp back up with outages in the next bull run? We'll see. But one of the networks that has never gone down is the XRPL, or the XRP ledger, using the XRP token, and the company known for that is Ripple. Hedera is part of a 5-year agreement valued at $250 million with the Saudi Ministry of Investments. So this is just bullish news, in my opinion, for Hedera, which uses the hbar token. So I wanted to share that. And then Jerome Powell, there's a lot of speculation about what's been going on with a lot of his statements from his last FOMC meeting. But a bunch of people have confirmed that the Department of an Instant Settlement Transfer in the system in the United States. So he's been talking about how the United States has been investing heavily inside an instant settlement service system in the United States, and they use the FedNow system. But a lot of people are misconstruing this and saying that it's going to be used with the XRP token. In my opinion, I disagree with this. I don't think that the US government's going to use a private company's token to settle transactions. But we'll see what happens with this. But it's just something to look out for and try to not have a bunch of FUD in the markets. There's a reason the SEC and Bill Hinman gave Bitcoin and Ethereum a regulatory pass in 2018. Same reason they sued Ripple in 2020. And there's a regulatory capture for better technology. So Ripple was a top. The XRP token was a top performing asset, increasing 36,018% in value. It went from a 0.0065 cent token at the start of 2017 to around $2.25 by the end of the year. In comparison, Bitcoin only saw a 1,300% increase. So we saw a major increase in the XRP token. We're seeing a lot of stuff coming out with ETHgate, so we'll see what happens with this. But hopefully we can see the SEC and Ripple lawsuit ending here very soon with hopefully a settlement or the judge officially making some rulings. But if that happens, I do see a nice increase. Again, no financial advice with any suits, I say, and do your guys' own independent research. But we will see a nice increase, in my opinion, in the XRP price for the XRP token. Now, Prometheum has been a lot of controversy because for some reason they've received a bunch of different abilities to create this company. They've officially been vetted by the SEC, approved for digital asset securities to be sold on their platform. They actually don't even have a platform yet to be serviced on, but Prometheum Capital is thrilled to announce that ETH as its first digital asset security. So they labeled it hashtag digital asset security. So can we see the federal government now approving Prometheum for digital asset securities exchange? Now coming out and labeling Ethereum as a security? Only time's going to tell. But we saw Bill Hinman gave his Ethereum free pass speech where he labeled Bitcoin and Ethereum as non-securities and everything else is up for speculation. So we'll see what happens with this. But if you guys want to do a little bit more research on this, you guys can. But I wanted to bring this back to what we talked about earlier, where Prometheum has achieved another incredible milestone. So this happened earlier with the BD. Prometheum Capital received a first of its kind approval to clear and settle digital asset securities. And this happened on the 10th of 2024 in January. So it's interesting to see that that is happening. Now, I'm still waiting for this upcoming documentary for XRP Unleashed. If you guys want to follow along, you guys can. This is going to be a great documentary, in my opinion, with Zach Rector, John Deaton, as well as Coach JV. I've actually met Coach JV and then also Zach Rector. I have not met John Deaton yet, but it's really nice to see some of these people who are in the XRP community coming out and doing a documentary on this and kind of just basically allowing people who have not known anything about this, people who are investing in the token, to actually watch like a small little snippet of what happened with ETHgate and everything else. So it's interesting. So we'll see what happens. Now, W. Oliver Segovia says that we're excited to wrap up the January with a fresh updates about Ripple. I'll pin this in the two simple categories: building. 90% of our business is outside the United States. After being relatively quiet for the past 3 years in the US for Ripple payments, we've geared up to announce the new product updates updates powered by our money transmitter license, the MTLs, that cover the majority of the United States. And to get the ball rolling, we're hosting meetups for folks in fintech. So if you guys are in fintech for San Francisco headquarters, you guys can join Ripple and ask some questions, and we'll see what happens with that. In my opinion, I see this as pretty bullish news, especially with the Ripple versus the SEC case ending. As they ramp up their United States services, I do see again an increase in that XRP price. Now, for those of you guys that don't understand what it is, Ripple uses cross-border payments as a bridge currency, and this is just a company coming out during their fintech um, conference and coming out and saying that they actually use Ripple's XRP token. So they use Ripple's business model using the XRP token to settle transactions. So we'll see what happens. Some big news though with this happened on January 31st. I don't know if I covered it in my last video, so I wanted to make sure I did cover it. But Chris Larsen's official wallet got hacked. So it's not Ripple's company, its own personal wallet officially got hacked. It says there was unauthorized access to a few of my personal XRP accounts, not Ripple. We are quickly able to catch the problem and notify exchanges to freeze the affected addresses. Law enforcement are already involved. And he says that this is an isolated incident. Ripple wallets are secure. Were never compromised. We've confirmed nearly all of the affected funds were converted out of XRP. We're working with law enforcement and have been advised that a significant portion of the funds have been frozen and are pursuing the remainder aggressively. Many thanks to the XRPLF and then this guy for their help. And I kind of agree because everything can be tracked on the blockchain. So if somebody does steal your guys' tokens, whatever, basically when they sell it to an exchange, the exchange figures out where it was sold to, and then when they convert it to US dollars or fiat currency, depending on where they are in the world, they have to go through a banking institution. If you KYC, then you're able to figure out who actually has the money that sold your tokens if they do officially get stolen. So it's really interesting. So when we say like, oh, cryptocurrency is only used for scams, fraudsters, and everything else, it's actually false because it's be able to be tracked. Now, Panos comes out and says that in the next 2 weeks, the XRPL enters a new chapter that will bring us closer to a vision of the internet of value. AMMs, or automated market makers, are now the standard for decentralized trading and exchange of value, with over 2 trillion transacted. The signals of a new era for the XRPL, and this is going to happen in 14 days. So on February 14th is when this officially goes live. So we'll see what happens with this, but it's really interesting. And the last thing that we're going to be going over is the magistrate judge, Judge Netburn, has granted the SEC's motion to compel in its entirety. So everything that the SEC wanted Ripple to compel for the remedies phase, they wanted to go through their transactions since the lawsuit happened. So a lot of their money transactions from 2022 to 2023, they want to look at their statements and see what happens. Ripple tried to oppose this. The judge officially granted it for the SEC. Jeremy Hogan says that I didn't really want to comment on this motion because, well, it was a little boring and it didn't feel like it was important to Joe/Jane XRP. Call me Macbeth, but I still don't. So he's saying that this is kind of like a nothing burger, and I kind of agree with it. So they're going to look at what Ripple's been doing since the lawsuit officially started and see if they can get a little bit more money out of Ripple in some fines when they officially try to settle. And now the last thing that we're going to be going over is Ripple did request for a 1 week extension of a deadline for the remedies related discovery. So they were told that they have to compel this information, and then Ripple just said, can we wait until February 12th to officially hand over this information? So we'll see what happens, but thank you guys for tuning into my video. Put your guys' thoughts down in the comments, and if there's anything you want me to go over next, if you guys can invest with the big dogs, stay on the porch. Thank you guys, and have a good one.